here's my takeaway. It's very urgent in Hong Kong. This is an existential crisis for Hong Kong. Any rights they lose to Beijing, they're not going to get back. And Beijing wants to steamroll the city. Beijing wants to go back on all the promises they made to Hong Kong. They want to take away the right to freedom of assembly, and they're doing that. They want to take away the right to free speech, and they're doing that. And they want to deny them the right to vote. Beijing said that they would give Hong Kongers the right to elect their executive. They still don't have that right, and now Beijing looks like they want to take it away forever.
In no uncertain terms, we've called on the NBA and other U.S.-based companies to show a bit of backbone. Give me your perspective. These remarkable clips that feature NBA players like James Harden, LeBron James, you could tell they are really caught between a rock and a hard place. You know, what's your sense on how this is progressing specifically and the pressure on these players not to try and, infringe on what the league wants them to say? It's a remarkably difficult situation. I'm sure you know.
Well, it's really about money. I mean, the league gets tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars from China now. I mean, it's a major market for them. That's fine. But listen, if they think that the coercion is going to decrease over time, they're dead wrong. I mean, this is how Beijing plays ball. They're going to tighten the screws. They're going to put it to them. And they want to make the NBA part of their propaganda machine. And this is why you see Beijing running such heavy interference. So right now, American companies and American athletes, look, LeBron James, he's a significant social figure in this country. He needs to use his social platform to say, at the very least, I'm not going to participate in shutting down free speech. I mean, he really ought to be supporting the protesters too, but at the least he could say, I'm not going to allow some communist government to infringe on Americans' right to speak, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, that would be a significant step. Beyond that, these corporate executives, they've made a gob of money in China, a lot of these corporate executives. They've shipped jobs over to China. It's incumbent on them now to say, we're not just going to become part of the Communist Chinese Party's propaganda machine.
How should any U.S. company, whether the NBA base or any other, uphold American values? They are multinational in nature. They're trying to do business in a company or a country like China that perhaps is not on the same page with what we value here in our own democratic republic. So what is the role? What is the responsibility for U.S. companies? How do they try to approach that if they are trying in good faith to do business in some of these other countries?
I think being pro-democracy is a pretty low bar. I mean, this is not particularly controversial, right? I mean, you can think of all kinds of really controversial social issues, political issues, whatever, where it's like, oh, yeah, people are divided. Listen, I mean, every American agrees that the right to speak, the right to assemble, the right to worship, the right to vote, these are pretty basic things. And I don't think it is too much to ask for these companies that have made millions, billions in China, have shipped our jobs to China, to at this point say, well, we still believe in the right to speak freely, for heaven's sake. We still believe in the right to vote, for heaven's sake, the right to worship. They ought to be able to say that. And I think American consumers need to punish them. If these companies aren't willing to say that, Apple, another great example, if they are not willing to take a stand and say, hey, we support basic democratic rights, I think consumers should punish them.